Welcome to Book Chat. Welcome to Book Chat, everyone. Hi, it's Maude here. Chris is in the chat. Lisa's in the chat. We got a bunch in the chat. We're talking well of Ascension. Avery's here. Jimmy's here. Kate's here. Terry's here. Happy Book Day indeed. We should call it not Hump Day being a Wednesday, but like Spine Day. Will that catch on? Lady Amphi, look at that with the follow straight away. I need pewter flakes. Oh my gosh. Last time I remember when we did book one, we were talking about what the best metal to have was, and I still say soothing and pewter. Pewter was my number one. The amount of times pewters come in handy. Play the board, a big hello. Ups and Downs says, are we only reading era 1 in this? Usually if we're going to do a series, we'll start it out, see how we go, see if it gains momentum or loses momentum. I think we're going to try and get the trilogy out for this one. Isaac, thank you so much for 18 months. You actually haven't missed in 18 months. It's just been a streak this whole time. I've not completed book chat homework, but I'm just here lurking. One of these days, I'm going to get the lurk. Dude, I keep talking about it. And when I say I will do it, I will find time for Adam to do it for me, which is how that's been going. I just don't have the computer intellect, if that makes sense. I could figure it out, but like, I'm 35 now, so I don't want to. Chris says, you thought book 2 had a powerful end. Book 3, wow. Ups and Downs says, I've read era 1, 3, 4 times. I've read era 1, 3, 4 times. Grammar, not a grandma. But I've still never read era 2 yet, so I'd love to read it all with you. Oh, that's cool. We lost too many people in this book, says Colleen. We gotta pour some out for our homies today. There's a couple where I'm like, we could settle down a little bit. And I wonder, maybe, this is probably a general discussion to kick off the chat. Do you think that there are some authors that will kind of pander to us and make some deaths, you know, oh, it scared me, Stephen. Explosive Steam doesn't work in here, but if I do this, it will pop up. If I do this, it should pop up. Otherwise, it should pop up. It should pop up. Why don't I know how to mod my chat? Review requests. Review. God, my best friend's calling me right now. Oh, it's all happening on the phones and on the... One of these days I'll like learn how to moderate. This will be so cool. I want to try and do the exploding chat for you, but I don't know. Dysfunction! What amazing timing, because I was just now. I was completely living up to your name. First time chat, Windrunner 0102 says, book 2, just cracking the door open into the Cosmere. Windrunner, tell us a little bit about your Brandon Sanderson history and the books that you like. Avery says, I said tin was the best, and while I still would really like tin, I love that pewter helps you survive impossible things. That whole pewter burn as well. Do we have any mods in the chat? We got any mods just hanging out saying hi? If we do, I'd love to try and get an explosive stream redemption happening. Because it should have happened in here though. My alerts are on. My alerts are on. Hello, Catch22. You got laggy internet. Oh, it's hit and miss, isn't it? Sorry, Stephen. We'll do something about that. Vaidin says, Vin really comes into her own this book, though she does need help at times. And for some reason, I feel like I should aid Vin. Aid Vin. Aid Vin. Is there a pun in there, Vaidin? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I got it as soon as I said it. Vaidin. Is there a pun in there, Vaidin? It's, yeah. There you go. Clever Girl says, I want pewter because I have chronic fatigue. I just think that, oh gosh, we could get into it. Pewter really kind of like sorting out all physical weakness, whether you're tired, whether you've got sore muscles, whether you have to run for 23 hours straight. Like, wow. Pewter, huh? Pewter. We are talking about chapters 31 through 60. The whole book is up for grabs for discussion. Usually at the start of our second week, the second Wednesday of the month, where we'll wrap up our discussion of the book, we rate it. Now, if you're on Goodreads, I may have seen some of the ratings already, but we'll go through. We've got a smaller group this time because it was a chonkster book. I barely made it. I also listened to it while I was at the beach today, and I may have fallen asleep a little bit while it was playing in my ear. So if there's ever a lapse, I do have the chapter breakdowns in front of me. I could have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for the meddling Maude. I betrayed and sabotaged myself right now. But let's have this discussion. Yeah, I don't know either, Little Wig Guy. I don't know how to claim it. That's okay. Well, we have to get our training. Xenotech says, how do you read faster? If you're listening to the audiobook, you just bump up the speed of it. I was hitting this book at 1.7 most of the time. But in terms of reading, you just got to get in the zone. No distractions. Put the phone away. Chris spent the day shoveling. Shoveling snow. It's very, very cold where Chris is. There's a lot of snow. There's also, is it you that you posted a video of someone clearing their driveway with a flamethrower? That's made me laugh quite a bit. Kate says, that's what it's like for me with Wheel of Time. I was at 2.0 at the end, but I was like, but I liked this book way more than Wheel of Time. Same narrator though. Blah. Can you separate the narrators when it's different books? Because I'm listening to Night Circus now that I finished this one. And it's Jim Dale who does all the Harry Potters, and it's just taking me back to that mystical land of the wizarding world. Yes, Kate?
I did it with Rosamund Pike as the narrator, so I didn't have the same narrator. But since I'm not really an audiobook person, that was I've only done audiobooks like twice, so.
Are you getting into it a little bit better? It took me a while.
Nah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I bet you're not addicted to your phone. Like I am.
I'm not on my phone all that often.
You know how like there's a screen time in there where it'll tell you how long you've been on your phone? And someone was like, oh, mine's shocking. I'm up 4 hours. I have been on the phone. I'm like averaging 4 hours a day. I was at 10. Anyway, it's because of my hour-and-a-half walk every morning. You know, I'm playing Pokemon Go and listening to the audiobook. And, it's just like next to me and it's kind of always a little bit on and I don't off it. Truth's Gone. Yeah, absolutely. Doom scrolling is real. Oh. A lot of celebrities have read the Stephen King audiobooks. Oh. Lisa says I have to go up to 2 times speed the last hour to finish in time. I need to stop waiting until Monday to start my reading. You get half a book done from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? That's amazing. It's much easier for me to get lost in a book when I'm reading it. I sat down to start the Night Circus earlier and I accidentally read 100 pages. Says Avery, where's my chat box? Why aren't you on? How? There it is. It is on. Great. Kate says most of the time I spend on my phone is just on Shining Nikki. What's that? What's Shining Nikki? Kate? Yeah.
Fashion game. It's a game.
Yeah, tell me about it. I could get addicted.
Fashion game.
Yeah.
Dress up. So you it's like a gacha game because that's all mobile games are gacha games. But
yeah.
You just pull for outfit pieces and you dress up Nikki, who's the main character.
I already downloaded a game that Vaidin got me onto. I play it still from time to time. I don't really understand it, and it's got an autoplay function, so it's kind of pointless. But I'll get into it. I'll get into it. Thank you, Clever Girl says, I'm sold on audiobooks time. I have trouble listening to less than 1.5. Yeah, it sounds like they're falling asleep. I did it. I put it on 1 just to hear it again. I'm like, it sounds so unnatural. Windrunner says, I'm getting to start my Mistborn reread in preparation for book 4 of Era 2, The Lost Metal. Oh. Vaidin's talking to Kate about the Wheel of Time series, saying, how did you like it? I read a few of them a long time ago, but I didn't I didn't like any of the characters. That's no good. Homescapes, Lisa? Homescapes? What's that game? Tell me on this app.
It's basically a game you just play games and you get points and stuff, and that you remodel like a house. It's really stupid, but that's what I play every day.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
You turn 30 and all of a sudden you're like, furniture? Has it been awesome this whole time? I love it. Ridian, thank you so much for subbing for 18 months. Thank you so much. That's an 18-month streak as well. You haven't missed one. That's very, very sweet. Chris has said that Brandon Sanderson has read the first 2 chapters of The Lost Metal on his YouTube page, which is cool. Ooh. Clever Girl spends an inordinate amount of time on WhatsApp. That sounds like you're socializing in a healthy way. Michelle says, my audiobook speed depends on if I need to make my pages or if I'm not into the reader. Otherwise, I take my time. Normal speed. I will never do normal. It really does depend on the narrator. The lowest I'll go is 1.2, 1.3. I will never go lower than that anymore. Cannot do it at 1. Avery says, my mum plays a house remodeling game constantly. It's her Candy Crush. Excuse me. Jimmy, I know the skit that you're talking about where like Zillow is like the new crack for millennials. That's great. The lowest that Lisa will do is 1.5. Okay, we are getting sidetracked. We have to start rating the book out of 5. What have we got? I'll go from bottom to top. Strawberry's here. Vaidin, starting with you. What did you give this entire book in its entirety out of 5?
Oh, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed the book quite a bit, and there's a lot of great plot twists, but I feel like there's a lot of things that also weren't resolved very well. So it kind of
Can I have an example of what?
The spy was not. I'm not a big fan of the spy, plot hook in general, because we had the spy. We found out who it was. That it was kind of put on the back burner a lot of the time, and even when we found who it was, the person helped Vin anyway.
It was irrelevant, right?
Yeah, and then they went back to their conjure. That's it. Like, okay, that was kind of useless to me.
There were actually quite a few moments where there was so much build up, and then it was just like boom. Dealt with, and you're like, there's so much into it, and for it to be not even resolved or like kind of handled so quickly. Straff's death. Yeah, that was a bit of a So I hear you on that. I gave it a 4 too, actually. Strawberry Brie, hello, lovely to have you here. What'd you give this one out of 5?
I would give it probably a 4 out of 5. I would say, I guess it might just be his writing style, because the front part of the book is so slow, but then the last half of the book, you're like, what? Oh my god, oh, whoa, oh.
Now, if that's his kind of like style, is it something that we just as a reader have to be accustomed to, or is it actually not the best and most ideal writing style?
I think it's depending upon the person. I would prefer if it was a little more evened out, but at the same time, I'm like, whoa, at the end, I was like, I want to read the next book. But then I know already that it's going to be kind of slow.
Slow at the start again. Yeah, it's definitely a pattern at this stage. And Chris is saying it's the same for Way of Kings. It's slow and then it's crazy. It's like a game of chess, almost. Vaidin says the style works for me. It's just not ideal, for sure. But another 4 out of 5 from Brie. Jimmy, what did you give this one out of 5?
I gave this book a 3.5.
3.5? Is that more or less than the first book? Thanks for the follow, by the way, Rixa27. Welcome.
I gave it this because, as other people said, it was very slow, and then it just was like, I was talking to Lisa earlier in the Discord about how it was like a roller coaster. It's like you're like, okay, this book is really slow, but I'm getting through it. And then it was just all like, boom, okay, we're falling down now.
It's so funny because Destiel13 in the chat says they call it the Sanderlanche.
Exactly. That's what it literally was. And I was like, I don't like this one bit, but I can appreciate the insanity of it all. So that's why I decided to give it that 0.5.
Okay. You're choosing chaos. We like chaos around here sometimes, so that's good. Bob Jim, a big hello to you. Thank you for joining us this evening as we talk books. Avery says, I like characters being able to just live life before everything goes to hell. Oh, that is actually quite a good way to look at it. Truscorn in the chat has made an amazing comment. And that is Brandon Sanderson made up ferrochrome in school where he wished he could bottle sleep and then use it for later. It's really, really interesting. I like that. It's like, gosh, yeah, I had so much before. I don't need it right now. But if I could just have borrowed time almost, borrowed rest. Kate, what'd you give this one out of 5?
I gave it 4. Like, I found it, like the pace was uneven, but at the same, it's like a double-edged sword. It kind of works with it because the pace being so leisurely in the first part, the second half feels even crazier. So if the first half had been, edited more, the second half wouldn't have felt as effective in that craziness. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I do.
That makes sense.
It does.
But at the same time, it's like, I didn't hate the slowness. I mean, there was a couple things where I was just like, a spy should be more important to you people, but you're taking this at a very leisurely pace. But at the same time, it didn't infuriate me in something where Wheel of Time, which I didn't care as much about those characters. I didn't care as much about that world. But in this, the world building was good enough that I kind of put up with it. Whereas this could probably use some editing, but at the same time, the second half wouldn't have felt so insane, which I feel is a benefit. Because the second half, you're just zooming through it. You're just oh wow, I'm done.
That's actually a really good observation where it's are you yelling, screaming for an editor to come and make it necessary, kind of trim some parts that are unnecessary? Or is it the fact that you kind of get used to a leisurely pace, as we were saying, and then all of a sudden you're at this breakneck speed, and it's whoa, wasn't seeing that coming. There is 1,000 book clubs. There is only 1, 2 with Maude. Oh, that's sweet. Ah! I was reading that before I read it, if you know what I'm saying. I was reading it out loud. I just read a compliment for myself, and I didn't realize that it would be. That's very, very sweet. And I made myself look very good. So, good team effort. And Thierry's in the chat saying, I'm only going to hang in the Twitch chat tonight. Geez, 2 weeks in a row, not selling me on reading the series. So far, it's been consecutively 3.5 and 4s. That's not super bad. My mouth was absolutely moving faster than my brain in that moment. Bob Dim said the Wheel of Time had entire books that could have been cut out. Oh, that's why people are very apprehensive to get started on that series, because it is, 15, 16 books, and if a couple of them aren't even necessary. But thank you for sharing that. Michelle, over to you. What did you give this one out of 5?
I think a 4 out of 5. Yeah, I don't mind slow or a slog. Usually, I can usually get through it, and it doesn't really bother me that much. But I just wasn't as interested in some parts of the book as I would have preferred.
What was some slow moments for you?
Some of the Ellen stuff. I also hate characters like Zane, a lot. They just drive me nuts. Although it's nice that he had so many red flags and could just say, hey, I'm a red flag. But, I think some of that stuff. And then I was more interested in some of the history stuff that they didn't really get into.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
There was a lot of world building, and because they are consecutively kind of telling and showing us excerpts from lore, from studies, readings, and then also kind of like doing a present day. You're kind of world building and then abandoning that and then coming back. So yeah, I hear what you're saying in that. We will definitely be talking more about Zane. I found his switch incredibly unnerving. And Kate, I saw your comment about this, and I'd love to have a big chat with you about it. I remember, I don't know if Brandon Sanderson actually recognized or realized what he was doing with that absolute domestic violence trigger warning. Ooh. But thank you for that, Michelle. Chris, did you want to chat to me and tell me what you gave this 1 out of 5 and a little something about it so I can read it out? Lisa, what'd you give this one?
Well, I haven't rated it this time because this is my second read. I haven't rated it again on Goodreads. I'd probably say, because I think I rated it 5 the first time, I'd probably say it'd be more like a 4.5, 4.75. But yeah, like I understand how everybody feels about his way of writing, where it's a lot of world building and kind of slow beginning, and then everything happens at the end is kind of crazy. But I enjoy it. I get so invested in it and the characters and everything that's going on. Like I love the story so much. So
isn't that funny though? Like when you read it for the first time, I've had this a few times as well. I've read it for the first time. I was like, wow, I had all of these amazing thoughts and it was positive. And I'm like, the first time I've gone through it, I have one sense of sort of like, yes, this was a 5. I loved it. And then you go back and read it a second time and you're like, oh, now I can actually see some of the flaws.
Well, yeah, I definitely rate with my heart.
Yeah, same.
I'm not a very critical reader, so if it makes me happy or makes me cry, I'm usually gonna give it a high rating. So he definitely he gets high ratings from me.
Oh, it's a good story. It's really, really clever. I just want to do some shout outs. Demi Gwad, a big hello to you. Thanks for dropping by. Gecko, you've used your Prime for 3 months. Thank you for that. And Skull Cleaver Knox, happy 1 year, boo. Would you look at that? We got a subversary. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this community. Stephen Malowski says 4.5. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. I hope I did the memes and the emotes justice. Stephen also is asking if we're ever going to get Winds of Winter anytime soon. You know that scene in Wreck-It Ralph where all the villains are at like almost a Villains Anonymous kind of support group? I have a feeling we're going to start getting that with authors that just won't finish their series. And George is going to be chatting with Patty Rothfuss, who's going to be chatting with all the others that are just like, ugh. And I understand. They're doing something that I could never do. You know, I always get a little bit tiffy when people comment negatively about my hosting styles, and I'm like, yeah, you get up here and you try to do something better. And I don't want to do that exact same thing to authors because I could never write a book that well. That's exactly it, Thierry. But this does not mean you are a bad guy. That's so great. True Scorn says the end can be confusing, but that is what the next book is for, and that's all I'll say. The end was a little bit confusing for me. There's quite a few smoke and mirrors here, and it's just kind of just left me coughing in a room, a shiny reflective room. There's a lot of smoke. I liked that analogy. I'm really proud of myself for getting that one. Gecko says, I would willingly wait another 5 years for Winds of Winter, as long as it's well thought out and not rushed like the show. You know what? Maybe that actually bought George a few more years because he was just like, look, I know how it's going to end, or I've got up my ideas. What would you do with it? And it bombed. It bombed. I was rooting for that show. I've believed in it. The last episode, I sobbed. I was so upset. Oh, is that true, Kate? The whole thing was that he told them how it ended, and then everyone hated it. So no wonder we...
wasn't that the whole point, that it's like he knew how it was going to end? So I think he even helped maybe write the last episode, and that
I thought it was very separate.
How it ended.
Oh, yeah, no, George is everything he was planning on doing there.
But the show's road was different to get there.
But that's how
it's supposed to end.
The Game of Thrones
so
was...
when everyone despised it, he's probably like, oh, well, let me just pretend that, you know, it's the next book is coming and I have to rewrite all of this shit.
There are probably like focus groups around the clock. What would you have done? Oh, that's a really good idea. That's a lot better. Okay, good. That's so hard though, isn't it? It's like you bring these characters to life and then other people are like, no, that's not good enough what you've done with them. I would have done something different. That's so weird, hey? It's like, but I made them. This is my world. Oh, we can be fickle and funny people, but God, that last episode was just trash fire. Bob Jim says, I didn't have a problem with how it ended, but they needed 2 full seasons to make it happen in a way that made sense. Yeah, it was shoehorned. I hear. Jimmy's saying, I remember the end of Mass Effect upset so many people that reminds me. And that remade. Oh, they remade the ending with DLC. Huh. Yes, Mass Effect 3. Yeah, and then Andromeda got rushed and it wasn't so great. Toaster Poster says, I stopped Game of Thrones at the end of season 5. It was too much and not fun. And then, yeah, Mistborn rewrites are on the movie, but Sanderson can't talk about it, says True Scorn. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Oh, Colleen says Kit Harington broke down in tears during the table read. I've seen interviews where Amelia Clark is not talking nicely about the last season. She's like, oh, that. Oh. Anyway, let's talk about the second half of Mistborn. Things really, really pick up. Yeah, I've seen that too. Kate, was it you who posted? Someone posted a clip where Robert Pattinson is literally talking in the junket circuit about how Stephanie Myers is like borderline deranged and she's writing fanfic. She's like, she goes, I think I read actually that Stephanie Myers had a dream where like, and she is pretending that she's Bella in this situation. And you've got to think like, that's really kind of like, it's like, that's kind of fucked up, isn't it? Like, it's got to be really kind of like, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm paraphrasing, but it's kind of like in that, and he's like publicly talking about it. So anyway, Lisa says a lot of his books are in talks to be made. I'll try to find the video to post in Discord about it. Ooh. Stephen says, I disliked how there were 6 subplots in A Dance of Dragons, 4 of them unnecessary, and then it ended on 5 cliffhangers. You forgot to carry the 2 though, Stephen. Amber and Elia says, I feel bad for everyone who poured so much into the early seasons to have it all overshadowed by the poor finish. I know. I mean, it was pretty much the most popular show, and it got a half decade of rave reviews. Well, this is a woman, says Kate, who wrote that Jacob. I'm not publishing this. I'm not approving it, but. This is a woman who wrote that Jacob looked at an infant and was like, yeah, I'm going to fuck that baby someday. And it was supposed to be romantic. No, you can imprint and it's just like a nice caring thing until they're of age. So bad. Alrighty, let's talk about chapter 31 so we can put it fresh in our minds. This is when, oh my God, sweet, silly, lawful good Elend, waiting for the assembly meeting to begin. Elend appears just as the meeting's starting, accompanied by Vin Breeze, Hammond Club, Spook, Doxson, Orser, Tindwell, and Sazed. Even reading that sentence now is just heart-wrenching. Elend nominates Lord Penrod to be the Assembly Chancellor to preside over the meetings in the absence of a king. The motion passes. Elend addresses the Assembly about his meeting with Straff, stating that Kelsia's legacy in the person of Vin will keep him from attacking the city and incurring her wrath. Elend also states that he's disappointed about being disposed, but is not going to argue to be reinstated. Wah, wah. What a soft argument. But basically we're in the assembly hall before the attack happens. people are really weirded out and sort of disappointed by Ellen. I think there was a moment as well where Ellen's like, I'm gonna try something as well. Vin, I forgot to tell you about it. It involves you though, so sorry in advance. And he basically joined with the church. For this, I find that we, especially in the first half of the book, spoke a lot about how last book was all about introducing us to the magic system and the classism and the oppressive nature of sort of like the lower class Scar. This is all about the noble and upper class politics. And when Ellen here starts introducing sort of like the church and state, I was even less interested. How did everyone else feel about sort of like the political conversations that were happening with the assembly, with Ellen as king and then getting disposed, and then with the nomination of Penrod, and how Ellen couldn't even fucking lie to save his own ass and gave an extra vote, which then sealed Penrod's victory. How did people take that? Who wants to unmute and talk politics? So I don't have to. Yes, Vaidin.
Okay, I actually like that stuff quite a bit, so I thought it was a good scene in general plot thing, because it shows his character very well. Like, it's that, like, we know Ellen before, we know he's idealist, and this helps cement him as that, and it's part of why, like, Vin loves him as well, his sincerity. And so, despite, the consequences of it, it does help, keep those characters that we like, or the people who do like him, and that Vin loves.
I get you. You're right. We are learning, because we had sort of like boy Ellen, who was just trying to defy his father, and he was, having cigars with the boys, trying to change the world by turning a page. But you're right. We're really seeing his integrity put to the test here, and time again, he chooses the right thing at the cost of himself. Chris says, "Good man, stupid man, but good man." And that, Jimmy's saying he was just naive. He had moral integrity. But I mean, this is the thing. We're talking about how much we hate modern day politicians, because you have to have like a streak of evil to kind of be able to do that. And yet here we have what a politician with moral integrity looks like, and we're frustrated by it. That's interesting. Kate, you've got some thoughts on this as well? Hello? We lost you. You mute and unmute. Oh, go. Thank you. Hello?
Oh?
You
Hello?
kind of... There you go. Got you now. Go.
Okay, you can hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would kind of look at it as there's always the people like on Twitter who it's like, oh, I could do a better job running the country than this person. Or you probably get it all the time as a streamer where some dude will crawl up in the chat being like, why don't you do it this way? Or, I could do better than you, like do it the way I want to. And once they realize they're in that position, they realize they can't do it because they lack all the qualities that made the person they were saying they could do a better job actually be able to do that job. You know what I mean?
I do. I like that you're saying it's sort of like the Twitter soapbox. I'm going to talk really, really loudly. All right, we'll do something about it. Oh.
Because being like with Penrod or all of these other dudes on the assembly, they think that just because they're a noble or they have some semblance of merchant power, that automatically translates into being like a leader or a potential king. And it doesn't at all, because there's so many more pieces to running a government than my title, my, whatever.
Yeah, I have money and status, therefore I know. But Colleen brings up a great point, and I remember you saying it last week as well, that he's all theory. This is a book boy. This is someone who's read about politics. He's read about legislation. He's read about it all, but he's never been able to put it into practice. He was, like I said, just like in a little bit of a boys' squad. And then they had to become sort of men and really, really quickly and step up to the plate. And this is the first time he's really, really put it into practice. He had a mentor in Tindwald, Tindwell, who gave him like a very, very crash course in how to be a leader, a king. And he actually, he had a growth arc with it. We really, really saw him be able to stand up for himself a lot more, not question things, make demands. And then he finally realized that, yeah, I said it last week, your greatest strength can also be is usually your biggest weakness. And he's had to sort of really find, instead of being sort of like 100% good and 100% bad, it's a little bit of a sliding scale. And, you know, you have to sort of adjust it per instance, instead of just doubling down at the sake of your very existence. Vaidin says it's also interesting because of the contrast with his former friend Jastes, who gave up on his ideals. Jastes was very, very interesting. And I love how they kept saying that he was like the same, a couple of years older than Vin. The guy's like 22, 23, and he looks old because he's so stressed out. He's so in over his head. He's trying so hard to stay afloat, but he's cutting every corner to do it. I just picture him being on a sinking ship, just trying to plug holes with his toes and fingers. And is just like, yeah, I'm so screwed. He was paying the Kolos army with painted wood, thinking that, or like, you know, metal coated wood, but like fake fraud coins. And there were so few of the humans that were, and soldiers trying to kind of like wrangle the Kolos, that the more that they fought and the more angry they got. I thought Sazed's depiction of the Kolos was so incredible. They have two states of emotion. It's boredom and it's anger. And you're like, that is so dangerous because one perpetuates the other big time. Really quickly though, McMorning's Rage and Victoria P. Martinis. Thank you. Sorry, Victor A. P. Victor. Yep. Martinis, thank you so much for the follows. I really appreciate that. There's only like 71 follows until we hit 10,000, by the way, which is nuts to think about. But Kate's saying, I can relate, lol. Colleen says, I know people like that. Yeah, I mean, it is situational and you have to make choices to survive. And sometimes that you can't all be Elend and sacrifice yourself. Sometimes you just have to figure out the best way, but sometimes it kills you trying to figure it out. And Jastes was a very, very good example of that. I did like Brandon Sanderson's very descriptive emoting sort of language, where there was that moment where Jastes is like, you know, he had a very sort of stern look, but it wasn't that he was sort of falling apart. It's just that he'd been challenged and put to a point where there were no other options. And he kind of had that resolve within him. But yeah, this was a man who was just spiraling and trying to hold on. But what did we think of the moment? I'm going to put it out there to the chat again, and the call. The moment where the relationship ended. These were high school friends. These were besties who would talk about sort of how they were going to change the future. And then their path off obviously just went haywire, where Elend became king and then got disposed. And Jastes created or tried to control this volatile army in fraudulent ways. The fact that Elend forgave Jastes, but the kingdom couldn't, and Elend put a first notch on the wall of this kill. He got his teardrop tattoo, and that is he sliced off Jastes' head with the sword. What did we think about that moment? Deserving? Was it a turning point for Elend? Did you like it? Was it handled well?
I think that scene, I don't know if you agree with me on this one, but this scene kind of reminded me of, I think it was Star Wars Episode 1, where Anakin is found in that room with Padme, and then Padme comes to him, and he's like, I've killed them all. You know,
women,
and then,
the children, all of them. It's when he went to the Sand People because they kidnapped and tortured his mother, and he had to wipe out the entire. It was episode 2, by the way. It was Attack of the Clones.
I'm not an expert at that, but I apologize.
I mean, that's unacceptable. We're talking Star Wars to me to get that wrong. You know that, right?
Well, I'm a Star Trek guy, so I apologize. But
that's all right.
That's
But
the point.
I know that moment that what you're saying. Yeah, it is a turning point.
My brother, that's not the point. The point is that the scene, is very similar to that, where you have a person that is being told you need to do this in a specific way, and you've been vetted to keep and do the best choices that you can. And in his mind, he feels that this is the best decision. Maybe because he felt that person was holding him back, or maybe he felt another strong way about it.
Completely. He doesn't think it's the best decision. It was impulsive, and he acted on revenge, and so he was actually spiraling to the dark side.
Exactly. Like I said, just like that scene,
Yeah.
It's possibly one of the best scenes in Star Wars history.
But I don't think that they believe that they're making the best decision.
Oh, okay, I understand. I'm just telling you that's my opinion,
Yeah.
Because if you were in that situation, right, you would probably think, okay, I'm not going to do that because I'm Maude and I have my morals and my principles.
I don't know, man. If people stole my mum and kidnapped my mum and tortured and beat her, I don't know how I could be responsible for my actions after that. So I kind of get it. I kind of get it. But Ellen would be like, that's just what they're like. It's not personal.
It's true. It's very true because, when you're in the situation, it's a lot more different than theoretically talking about it. So I can totally understand that point of view.
Yeah. People are weighing in on this as well. Avery says, honestly, I think part of what made Ellen... Oh, do you want to chat about it, actually, Avery?
Yeah. Well, this isn't directly related to what we were talking about, but saying that Ellen, part of what made him a good leader compared to the other people in the assembly was the fact that he did listen to others' opinions. He thought he was the best man for the job in the sense that he had all these ideas and he thought he would be the only one to treat the ska correctly. But he didn't think he was the best person for the job in terms of, he didn't think that he alone had all the answers. And he recognized that, and he took counsel. He listened to others. He made sure that he had people from as many walks of life as he could find on the assembly to get answers from them. But he also really listened to Kelsier's crew, who were obviously the ones who orchestrated this whole thing. And he knew that they were the ones who fought this revolution, so they're the ones who have a vision. And although he might know all the technicalities of the politics, but he doesn't have all the answers in terms of the individual people and how they're thinking and their lives. And I think that is exactly what made him the best choice, was the fact that he listened to them. He took their advice. He, even though Tindwell told him he shouldn't, I actually think she was incorrect and that he was correct to make those decisions.
It's interesting because, is she incorrect? Because in this particular era, all of the leaders, and a successful leader doesn't necessarily equate a good leader, if that makes sense. So when you heard Set talk about what he would do, he was a very, very successful leader in that he could make hard decisions. He had a lack of empathy, but he spoke very honestly, very brutally, and he made tough decisions, and he was willing to sacrifice others for the betterment of what he thinks is the right decision. But he wanted to stand all over Ellen because Ellen asked, and you're right, he listened. I don't think that Ellen ever thought that he knew everything and recognized that he was a part of a team. But Ellen, above all, was fighting for democracy. In his vision, and what he stood for was democracy, was everybody having a say. And I love that absolutely got weaponized at the end, which we'll talk about. But Vin goes, no, he would rather die if it meant that his people will live. He will, the people are the most important thing, not the individual. So I kind of like how that screwed him over in the end. But talking about the Jasty situation, Vaidin says, yeah, it was definitely a turning point for Elend. I'm really enjoying his character development, including a sneak peek of part 3. And then other people are kind of relating to the fact that who your friends are in high school, you can grow in very, very different directions. And you can become very, very different people. With Chris saying, friends from high school have become white supremacists. Justice comes first. Sharks Boy says, I thought it was too contrived in order to level up Elend. That's an interesting take. Grabbing for power to make change. For one is bribing the Kolos and the other is having power from the well. Ooh. Kate says, actually, Kate, do you want to answer this? Do you want to jump on and chat about it? Oh, we're still having audio issues. Using a different device?
Hello?
Now I got you again. Huh.
Okay. I don't know. I'm using the same thing I always use.
But you're good now.
I'm just trying to remember what I typed.
You said Ellen did not think it was the best decision.
Yeah, like, he obviously wasn't, like, he obviously is like, I don't want to do this to you, because, like, we're friends, and he's not a murderer at heart. Ellen's probably, like, the most pacifist out of all the characters in this book.
And never killed. Everyone else is a killer.
Everyone else is, like, a stone-cold murderer, except for him. But, like, he obviously didn't want to do it. But, like I said, if Justice hadn't gotten punished, because it's like, oh, you know, we were friends, and I'll give you, like, a presidential pardon kind of thing, after he brought the Kolos in who were going to kill half the city, it's like, that could not happen.
He just lost. He. I think we've seen it quite a few times in different places where it's like it's a bit of a trope. You have access to immediate but unstable power, and when you take it, you lose control of the power, and it not only, you know, goes ballistic, but it ends up sort of killing you in the process. There's only first example that popped into my head. It's not even a good one, but it's the lawyer from Jurassic Park. He's there representing the family of the Mexican worker who was killed, or the Guadalupan worker, Costa Rican worker who was killed by a velociraptor. And so that's what he was trying to do. And so he was trying to get the park shut down and then realized he could make a lot of money from it. And that kind of grab at unstable power, he wanted to latch, and he just had dollar signs on.
Well,
and then it was the thing that killed him.
One thing is that Elend, too, out of all the other characters, anyone on the assembly, like Straff, Set, any of these people, they would have killed Justice because it's like, you betrayed me. You did this to me. Whereas Elend,
he forgave him on behalf of himself.
You did but he like did it because of what you did to everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, if you had done it to me, that's
I could forgive you for it, but you've just ended up killing
him. But see, every other person who was in line to be king of this place,
it would have been a slight. Yeah.
It would have been like, because you did it to me personally. It was all about me, and Ellen's not like that.
Yeah, I like that. Colleen, I can't believe your son went through that. That is so despicable. And this is the weirdest part, where it's like racism is not. You're not born racist, it's taught. So in like the years of high school, for someone to kind of like take on racism like that is so gross. And I'm so sorry that your poor boy went through that. And if I could waggle my finger at those children and shame them, I would, for doing that. Bulbdim says success is in the eye of the beholder. That's true. Elend felt like he had to do it in his role as king. There you go, Colleen. That's actually a really good observation, where it's like he's having to make the tough decisions and recognize himself as the leader who has to take these things into consideration. Avery says, yeah, I agree with that. Elend didn't think it was the best decision, but he thought it was the only decision. There you go. Chris says, beneath this mask there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. The ideas are bulletproof. And that's from V for Vendetta. Oh, there you go. We're doing a little tech help. Okay, so that was all about Elend, who probably got way too much time. Let's talk about frickin' Zane. Zane, we have already known, has got a voice in his head telling him to kill everyone. He has a very disastrous relationship with his father, Straff, who we also hate. So we're kind of on Team Zane for half of this because it's like he wants to kill his dad. We want him to kill his dad. He could team up with Vin, but he's doing the whole Darkling thing, which is you and I are different. You and I are different, and they don't know you, and they'll never understand you. So you and I should run away together. And she's just like, you're right, they don't really understand me, and I am different. We need to celebrate our differences. You're right, Colleen. It was gaslighting 101. Now, Zane could have been a very interesting, complex character. The fact that he was the shunned half-brother. Thank you, Kate. The shunned half-brother, his purpose was to be bred as a guard for Straff, being sort of a Mistborn. He obviously didn't have much love. He was dealing with sort of coping mechanisms to stay in line, which was self-harming. So we kind of had tell signs that there was a sort of an unstable nature with him, and then he started getting obsessive. Actually started his dad started getting obsessive over Vin. It was so interesting that it went from the girl to the creature when talking about her after he was bested by her. As soon as she pulled one over on him, the language changed, which I thought was really interesting. But then Straff was like, all right, Zane, you've got to kill her. So he's like stalking a lot. But then he's like, no, fixation, obsession, zoom, zoom, zoom. Her and I are going to go away together. We belong together. That's all that's going to happen. When Vin chooses Elend for a final time, Zane flips the switch and he attacks her. And the way that it was described was like she just was so unprepared by this 180, going from obsessive trying to picture a life together to trying to kill her. And I got a very nauseating feeling in my gut because I was reading a book. And for those that have been looking at my Goodreads, I've been reading this book for about 4 years and I really need to finish it, but it's kind of hard to read sometimes. It's called The Gift of Fear. The Gift of Fear, where it's subconsciously trying to comprehend and understand instinct and why we have the gut feeling. Why? Because our subconscious is piecing together information that we might not be cognizant or recognizing in like a conscious level. But when you get that feeling, that's why they say listen to your gut, because subconsciously it's kind of pieced things together and, you know, recognizes danger. In that book, there was a line, fear, gift of fear. If a word ends in it, if it's a single syllable or a double syllable word ends in R, it sounds like AH. Fear, water, fear. But real talk, because it's getting serious, there's a line in the book that says, you know, we all know the quintessential, the number one thing that a guy fears when he's set up on a blind date is rejection. The number one thing that a woman fears when set up on a blind date is to be killed. Is getting murdered. So that's interesting in itself. But then it was talking about sort of like domestic violence and the control that some men want over women. And it said that there are men who want control and are willing to do what it takes to have ultimate control over someone trying to leave them. So when a woman tries to leave and calls the police and gets the restraining order, when a woman displays signs of trying to get control again, a man, and it's not all men, blah, 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 but in this instance we're talking about domestic violence, of the traits of violence in men. A man would rather end her life and kill himself so that both people do not live again, both people die, than to see her walk away and have control over her life again and have any sort of freedom without them in their life. And I just remember thinking, you would rather die just so that you could kill them and have the final piece of control. And that's what I was thinking about with Zane. He is a poster boy for a murder-suicide. And that wasn't fun to read. Anyway, anyone else want to chime in? Hi, Brewery31, thanks for the follow. Vaidin says that's another great contrast between Zane and Elend. When Vin wanted to leave without Zane, he tried to kill her. When Vin wanted to leave without Elend, he trusted her. He said, I trust your decision, whatever the decision may be.
I have something that I would like to add, if I may.
Sure thing.
Now, what you were saying before is very true about being an uncomfortable situation, because I remember in my life, when I
Does
first
this need
moved,
a trigger warning?
If you don't want me to say it, I won't say it. That's perfectly fine.
My thing is I just want to protect, because we are broadcasting live to quite a few people, and because I know you and I know your history and some things that have happened. I also want to protect other people from like these sorts of things. So I think when it's a personal story, if it needs just sort of like a heads up, I think that would be amazing. But if it doesn't at all, then it doesn't.
Oh well, it doesn't involve anything like
just because the topic we're talking about.
No, I get it. It has nothing to do with suicide or anything like that. It just has, for lack of a better term, there was some controlling issues, but it wasn't anything like deadly. Like I said, when I first moved to New York, I was going to school. I didn't really know how to interact with people socially. When I was put into public school. So like when people would talk to me, I used to think it was like the greatest thing in the world. It's like, oh, why are you talking to me? And then when I came across my first girlfriend, she was always, if she didn't want me to do something, right, she'd always say like, oh, like she would try and coerce me to do it with words, or she would physically abuse me to do something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I understand that being the trigger, yes. But, it ended up taking my older sister to actually have to step in and get her out of the way. But, it's interesting how, a physical character such as myself in the real world can be similar to someone in an artwork. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't think that's unusual at all. Yeah, I think this is why we consume media, because a lot of the times we can see ourselves as the characters in the situations, in the scenarios. Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Exactly.
I like what Kate said. He put Vin on a pedestal as his salvation. And then when it didn't work out exactly how he saw it, and she didn't fit that perfect mold that he made out of her, he couldn't bear that she would betray him in that regard, just by existing in a way that he didn't deem the correct way. That is such a great thing. And this is, I have been known to do that in a very watered down way, where it's like, if I've got a crush on someone, I'm like, oh wow, and then it'll be like this, and it'll be great, and da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden they're like, that's not how this is gonna go, or I didn't really see it that way, or this is not a serious thing for me. And then I'm like upset that he wasn't going on with what I'd hoped for, but I actually never allowed or gave space or room for him to show me what he did want out of it. So Maude, young Maude, she's a Pisces, she's romantic, but that was a really big thing where it's like you have to give space to be able to show people who they are. Yes, expectations. You place an expectation upon a person about how you want them to be, act, sound, exist. And when they show you that they're not exactly that, by being exactly themselves, a person can get disappointed. It's what you do with that disappointment that's the big thing. And obviously learning from it so you don't place those sorts of unnatural, unrealistic expectations upon people. Exactly, Avery. How dare you not live up to the idolized version of you that I created in my head? I think the big issue that we have here with Zane was that he became like very, very violent. He kind of like and Kate, I want to kind of refer to the comment that you made earlier where it's like, do we think that Brandon Sanderson even really knew what he was writing and how he was writing it with Zane?
I don't think so.
You don't
I don't think so.
Yeah, interesting.
After
Let's
I
chat about
wrote
that.
it and after I thought about it, I don't think he did.
Okay.
Because this book was written a few years ago. So we didn't have the frame, like mental frame, as much as we do now in looking at relationship traits. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like a few years ago, something like the Darkling, or the way Edward and Bella are in Twilight, that stuff's seen as romantic, where someone's like brooding and difficult to understand, but he
I
only
watch you
shows
sleep
me
every
like,
single night. Oh, that's so sweet.
yeah, but that was seen as romantic, and now looking at it, it's like, no, it's like really problematic.
The whole
And
thing is, yeah.
So I don't think that he would have thought about it in that light, because it has that kind of like cultural Me Too shift hadn't happened yet. And maybe also because, I don't want to say because he's a man, but something that maybe a woman would pick up on more, because it's usually women, like not always, but it's usually women who are in like the victims of that kind of person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that there are many guys reading this. This part, I'm like the dissection of Zane's character.
That's correct too. That it's the same thing with Zane. I bet he's supposed to be really hot. So it's like, it's okay, he's sexy. It's just, yeah, it's like, I don't think Sanderson intended it, but he's a good enough writer. It happened organically. And we were able to kind of see it through a different lens.
So then what do you think about my legs are too long. What do you think about the fact that they kind of brushed the mental illness stroke over him as like some sort of excuse or a trope or a plot device?
If they brushed, yeah, that's also the thing, because it's like mental illness isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. But the thing is, he wasn't mentally ill. Whole kind of, we'll probably get into more in the third book. It's like, you realize now he was probably hearing the voice of whatever Vin let out of the well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't actually crazy, but had a whole host of other problems besides the voice in his head. Like, even if he hadn't had that, still would have been really fucked up because of all the ways that Straff had abused him and like emotionally neglected him, right?
And isn't it interesting that he trauma bonded with the same woman that Straff sort of like rejected and diminished and just, used, and the way that he described her, and the
they
fact
had
that...
a similar upbringing too. Like, Vin knew nothing but abuse, and it's the same thing for Zane. Like, Straff never gave him love, and he was obvious. It's like, oh, here's the son I'm going to pay attention to. You go over there with all of my other mistress's children, and I don't even know. I can only imagine that Zane's mother, whoever she was out of all his mistresses, treated her like shit, because it's like, oh, you're 19 now, you gross old hag.
I know.
Obviously, so he would have seen, his mother probably treated like shit or killed. We don't know.
Yeah, likely killed. That's what they would do, wouldn't they?
Without that voice in his head, he was essentially still going to become a serial killer. It's just, it kind of like was just an added red herring for the reader. We were like, oh, it's because he's ill, but he was doomed from the beginning.
Right. Michelle, you've got thoughts about that as well, saying I also get increasingly uncomfortable with depictions of men or people like Zane as villainous characters with shallow depictions of obvious mental illness. It can appear to link villainy and violence with mental illness.
Yeah, I think it's more the trend that you see. It's like sort of, and looking back, like people being, and like the voices in the head and things like that. I don't know. I think that, maybe it's a red herring, maybe it's not, but if you look at it in like a context of how many villains are being told something, and I don't know, it feels
schizophrenic, evil, villain, killer, murderer, bipolar, oh, they're bad.
Yeah, and Miss Necromancer's point about people with severe mental illness are far more dangerous to themselves than others. Like, I think that's and we're being that fact is more well known now than perhaps it was even a few years ago. So I think it's a retrospective, is like, the more I read depictions like that, it's more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I feel like unless it really, really, really serves a purpose, to have it as a smoke and mirror, or like for it to be like a Straff's evil, hates women older than 22 and, treats people terribly. Oh, this person kicked a dog. Oh, whatever, that's what makes them evil. Oh, they had a lazy eye. They're evil. Oh, they had a stutter, So it's using sort of like an impediment as like a trope for a bad person. But it's, you could really kind of go even further back, where I think someone was saying it in the chat. If they're good looking, then we treat them as someone who's a little bit better, or there's more hope for them, or there's more of an excuse there. But if someone's an ugly character, or they use size, or any kind of physical sort of like negative attribute, or how they see it, they paint it negatively, then it's like the bias that a reader may have. But are we being taught this? Is this like a trope that's been seen over so many centuries? I mean,
it's also like the perception of tragedy too, right? It's like, I think because even Vin, she saw Zane as very tragic, and I think that, because of, his afflictions were internal rather than, or, like an external presentation of evil, then, the empathy factor goes up. With that too, I think.
Yep. And it's not a case of Vin being like, I can fix him. It's Vin being a case of, I'm broken too. I think that's like a big difference. I wonder if, what is her name? Alaria and Breeze. She was, I can fix him. I don't want him to love me. He doesn't even know that I'm soothing him more than he would soothe me. Oh, here we go. Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for the follow just 2 minutes ago. First time chat says, without spoiling too much here, Sanderson deals with mental illness very well in Stormlight Archive. There's more going on with Zane. He's not just mentally ill. So Zane makes a reappearance in another book. Stormlight Archive, huh? Is this the beginning of it? How does that even work? What happens in Stormlight Archive? Look at the Dresden Files. Faye are lovely and lethal. Yeah. Good looks are more like a camouflage. SES, thank you so much as well for your 18 months in a row. Year and a half. Different characters, different issues. Okay, interesting. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. As what? Yeah. Anyway.
Another thing about Zane is that in Vin, her, like, she wears her trauma a bit on her sleeve. And people who are abusive like that see it. Predators see the weakness in their prey.
Yeah.
So, it's just another one of those things where it's like it worked out well, but Sanderson probably didn't do it intentionally. That men like that tend to like Vin because they know they can get what they want out of them.
Yeah. And the fact that Vin survived, as well as she has, hats off to her. Okay, so moving on. Sazed falls in love. I love this moment. I think that so much of the Mistborn series does talk about oppression, does talk about your life, your freedom, your rights. There's so much being taken away from you, your family being taken away from you. I mean, like, Jasty's kind of saying, Ellen, your family got to live. My family all went to shit. You said that we would be able to change the world, and my whole family died. The girls, my sisters, babies, all killed. And this is okay now? So it was justifiable slightly in a way. But for Sazed to have had a lot taken away from him as well, and how he talks about himself, and he doesn't talk about himself with kindness. it's factual with despair a little bit. Being a eunuch, being a slight rebel in the ways, but he always saw his purpose as being something bigger than him, and he's got that in common with Vin, where they don't actually feel like they as a person are deserving of love, but their purpose is to make a change for something that is bigger than them. Oh, good night, Bobdim. But I think that, listen, if a Tim Tam wants to walk past me, I will eat it. That much can be said. But I love Sazed's story, and I love sort of like his arc and how he found love with Tindwyl. Avery, I agree with you completely. Killing Tindwyl was cruel for a couple of reasons. Sazed finally had something worth living for, and that was something brilliant. And there was that line where it's like, my job is to record, it's to remember. So I have to, even though all I want to do is forget what her still body felt like, with her eyes frozen open. All I want to do is forget it, but as a sort of like as a terrace, what are they called? His specific role? Keeper. As a keeper, I have to remember everything, the good, the bad, all of it. The other kind of reason why I'm real shitty that Tindwyl died is because she's one of 3 women in this whole book. So that kind of sucked. But yes, Colleen, that is what I loved about it as well. I love that they showed that love can be more than just a sexual attraction. And whether Brandon Sanderson realized it or not either, he talked about an asexual relationship. And I kind of like that. That is actually a really progressive sort of exploration of sexuality, of love, of connection. Anna Green Gable, thank you so much. Oh, Green Bagel. Anna Green Bagel, what a great name. Welcome to Book Chat. We're talking about Well of Ascension, Book 2 of Mistborn. Thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. But yeah, let's talk about Sazed and his arc. Does anyone want to unmute and talk about this wonderful character who I love? And being a Farrakami. Yes, Vaidin.
Yeah, I love Sazed. So
Yeah.
so many good things about him. Like, but yeah, overall, like we got to see him have some amazing moments. Becoming a fighter essentially for a short time, using up like years of stored power. Like, because we see him in general using his abilities to help him, but it's never like this. And you can see the potential of a Farrakami. Like, what happens if you actually store your abilities for literally years, and how they can use it to help himself in a fight and for other purposes.
When it was health, and he like tapped the health button, and he's like, muscles were stitching back together and his bones were healing. I was like, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, he was really badass in that scene, and just in general, like his demeanor, but the ending, people said is it's pretty tragic. He basically lost his faith. He doesn't want to remember anything anymore.
He lost everything. And because this is the saddest part with Sazed, like, he's obviously been a keeper of religions, and he was really kind of selling the point with religion, where he's like, look, I don't actually believe their beliefs, but what they have in common is faith, is something to believe in. And that was kind of his purpose. He was a bystander in other people's faith, and he was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then he got his own. Someone chose him. He experienced love for the first time ever. He found his person. And he, in doing so, realized that his whole life before that basically had very little meaning or purpose. And he started he went full existential. He started questioning everything, because he finally kind of realized what his purpose and truth really was. And so when he had that epiphany and then lost it, he lost Tindwyl, everything kind of tumbled. And so all he had again was his identity and his role as a keeper.
Yeah,
and then he lost that.
Yeah, it's especially bad because when you think about the end, like he knows that his memories or the things he's written down, anything that's not written in steel essentially is a lie. Like, he finds out that it's been his prophecies they was reading about are lies, and that he was been basically manipulated to that help break him quite a bit.
I know, again, like his whole purpose and his strength was undermined. Oh, in such a tragic way. Kate, do you want to chat about it being extra sad? Oh, I think we kind of just touched on
because
it.
Tyndall was like a source of faith for him too, as a studier of religion, and just in a different way, because he didn't ever think that he could have been deserving of love being a eunuch. He thought, it's like, that part of my life is never going to happen, whatever, I'll just throw myself in my studies. But she came along, it's kind of like, I could see a different path for myself that might not be typical for everybody else, but it's like she showed him, it's like, yeah, I deserve love too, even if it's not in the way that everyone thinks people should have it. And then when she was gone, he lost her faith in him, and then he started to lose faith in himself. And then when he went back and reread the metal tablet, he lost
faith in everything. Yeah, I know. Really, it is a tragedy. This is the whole, is it better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all? But yeah, I will say though, it's really interesting, sort of like the man's perspective is, if I cannot have sex, then I do not deserve love. And that the two are mutually exclusive. I do think that that's a very interesting sort of like take on it all. Because I don't really feel like, I'm trying to see a more modern example, because this was written... Oh, here's my copy. Oh, there's a map! Oh, wow, Luthadel. I love a map. And of course, that's the one thing I don't get with Audible. I've lost all my maps again. Oh, would you look at that? Maps, man. I used to have a rule. If I didn't have a map, I wouldn't read the book. 2007. Okay. It's not that long ago. Grey Worm in Game of Thrones, to bring Game of Thrones back up again. I don't know if he ever felt like he was undeserving of love. I felt like he was conditioned to never have love. And they obviously thought that if they removed... Oh, yeah, you're right. If they removed sex organs, then they cannot fall in love. Guys, what do you think? Love... Your heart doesn't beat in your dick. Actually, don't answer that. Don't answer that. You know what I'm trying to say? It's here. It's here. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's here. That's your relationship. Yeah, no, I talked. I should have thought about that, but my head's not. Piling. Stop. I know. I'm glad you called that and not me. Avery, let's chat about Sazed again. Avery, let's talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just, talking about how he realized that he was worthy of love and that he didn't have to feel like less of a man because of everything. And I just said that's really wonderful because, in our society, there are these expectations for people. And people who are on the asexual spectrum often kind of grow up feeling broken because they don't fit into this idea that society has. And men especially have to deal with this because our society kind of paints this idea that men need to be sexual beings in order to be men. And that's not true at all. And it's like and the fact that Sazed was able to realize that he was still a man and he was still worthy of love and he was still whole. He was a whole person. And then they destroyed that basically. I know.
But it's interesting with Tyndall as well. It's almost like they were a really good fit together, like kind of the yin and the yang, because you know, he was made a eunuch, so he could not procreate at all, whereas Tynwald was used as a breeding machine, where her job was to, by as many people as possible, just to continue having children after children. And so for him to be like, I can't give that to you, and she's like, I was forced it for so long, it's the last thing that I want. And for him to kind of see that perspective, and for her to feel that perspective, like she probably feels safe for the first time in her life, you know, even though like that was like a job that did she have a say in it? Did she volunteer for that? I don't know, it made it sound like it was kind of brutal. Now, I would love to learn more about that, Kate, but that might not be a public conversation to have. But if you are willing to share the difference between both of those, I would love to learn. But let me know if that's a private chat or
I don't
a
care.
public chat. Okay. Yeah, what's aromantic?
Aromantic is when you're not interested in loving relationships.
You don't want a loving relationship.
No, I'm not like where it's like you're more. I look at it like someone else might look at it differently too. See, that's the thing.
Yeah,
That it's like
open to interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas I see sex as more, you know, transactional. It doesn't have to have emotional attachment.
I'm the absolute opposite. I love
romance. You're horny, and it's a solution to being horny.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
I don't want to put up with a person in a relationship. I can't deal with it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now. Yep. So that's being aromantic but not asexual. Okay. I'm demisexual. I do not want none unless I got feelings, hun. I've got too many feels though. Oh. If I could just like turn the feel dial down, that could be kind of cool. Oh yeah, you're right. That's a really great point as well, Vaidin. How Vin and Elend had a really good match as well, because Vin had a lot of practicality, whereas Elend had his idealism, his theory as well. What's grey romantic? I don't know if I've ever heard that term before.
It's basically, it's like, it's on the aromantic spectrum, but it's kind of on the closer to the like alloromantic end of it, where basically, I experience romantic attraction sometimes, but it's less or not as frequently as like an alloromantic person would. So
it's alloromantic.
That's somebody who just experiences normal romantic attraction.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's kind of more situational for me.
Got it.
Like I experience other emotion, like attractions first, and then that can, I guess, yeah. And then it, like, occasionally, like, it can turn into a romantic attraction, but I rarely ever experience that first. Like, it's usually like
and it's very
platonic.
Person.
Yeah, it's usually platonic or like emotional or anything far before it turns into me wanting to have a romantic relationship.
Fascinating. So I'm really glad I brought that up. And again, I don't know if Brandon Sanderson was just like, I'm going to champion an asexual relationship, but I'm really glad he did. And I'm really glad he normalized it in a way where he's reminding people that everyone is deserving of love, of platonic attraction, of all the words I learned today. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think that's, again, it's just so fascinating how there's no blanket. Everyone can have a very and vastly different way to look at it and see things. Yeah, this is why we have these conversations. It's really cool. All right. I did not think we would be able to fill up this much time, but here we are. I don't think so either, Kate. I don't think so either. I don't think it was intentional, but I'm still glad it happened because it was actually really quite progressive for what it was. Let's talk about the murder plot, the spy. So the whole time when we last talked about the first half of the book, we voted and we thought that Doxson was number 1 and also I think was number 2, perhaps. Lisa, can you remember?
Yeah, Doxson was number 1, I think, for sure, and Set's daughter was tied for number 2.
Alaria? What's her name? Alaria? Or something.
Or I don't know.
Something. Yes. And that kind of made sense. There were a lot of red herrings, bit of a whodunit. The pacing on it was bothersome for me and frustrating. But well done, Jimmy. Kate says, can I say that I really grew to like, how do you say her name, Kate? Olrian? Olraine? Allarine?
I was saying it as Alaraine, but I don't know. You're the one who did the audiobook.
Yeah, I thought it was
I'm pretty-
Olrian. Olrian?
Yeah, I think you just said it right, Maude. It's Olrian.
But then it's not phonetically how it looks, though. Olrian. Okay. Yeah, she was really cool. I really liked that she was like the whole thing with Breeze. I thought that was really cool. Where Breeze is like, oh, she's really young. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, it's really bad. Oh, but okay, just a little bit. And it's her the whole time, like busting some soothe on him, being like, I want you to like me. So I loved the switcheroo on that one. I actually really grew to love Breeze in this book. Dude has a front. There's a very kind of like strong personality kind of trope where it's like it's the disguise, it's the mask. You want people to think something worse about you so that it's an easy kind of mask to hide behind. And the whole time he kept projecting how self-assured, how not a team player, how all of his decisions are furthering him. And yet, more and more, because we finally got his point of view, which I really appreciated. He lets people think the worst of him, but he is constantly soothing. And I think this is a really great argument for what we had in the first book, where soothing got a really bad rap because it was manipulative. And Breeze is letting people think that it's, almost like dastardly and manipulative. Oh, she's a rioter. Oh, I didn't pick up on that. But it's like, yeah, super manipulative and not a good thing at all. Hello, Alessandro Da Vinci. Thank you so much for the follow. But the whole time he's soothing to help and further people, and he's doing it in a very generous way and a very selfless way. And it's the fact that he loves to chat with Clubs because Clubs a smoker, and he can't soothe him, so he gets to switch off because what he does is exhausting. That's a weird hot take to come in with, but welcome to book chat. Yeah, no, I really, really appreciated Breeze a lot more, but I also appreciated sort of like learning and understanding about the soothing. And the fact that he stayed behind, even though he's hiding behind a wall or a door, he was soothing hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, and then they vouched for him, going, yeah, even when like it turned really bad, Breeze never left. He kept soothing. And then it kind of like cracked something in his brain, whether it was the fact that this is the first time he got his hands incredibly dirty, that he was faced with life or death. I thought that was incredibly powerful. So I really, really loved the whole Breeze arc in this. But we are getting... in the first one, he seems almost manipulative. He's so unlikable in the first book, Avery. You're exactly right. But once you get inside his head, you see why he does what he does. Kate says the part 2 that made me go, ooh, 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 was that he was having his psychiatric break. The soldiers said that they found him because he was still soothing them. Isn't that the sweetest? He was in shock and he was saying how much of a coward he was, but he was still soothing people subconsciously. Yeah, he's great. He's great. So, while we're talking about the fact that there was a spy in the midst, it became a game of Cluedo. It was Orsia in the study with the Kandra. And this was underwhelming for some. Vaidin said that this was the weaker part of the book. There was a lot of build up to it. And even when we found out who it was, it didn't really matter. It was Colonel Marston in the study with the dog skeleton. Yes, you definitely said my joke way better than I did. Thank you for that. So let's talk about this. Some people did have Orsia on their list. Do you think that this was a purposeless venture? Pun intended. So Lisa, now that we can talk about the book, do you want to talk us through the subtle hints the first time that were no longer subtle this time round?
It was just a lot of, like I said, it was just little things where she would just comment on how he said something to her and how it felt different to her. Like
Right.
his personality changed, but it shifted so slightly in the beginning that you don't notice it. And then, like, the more you get to know him and the more what was it? Tensoon is his real name?
Yeah, Tensoon.
The more he got to know her, the more he opened up to her, and she just felt like her and Rocher were getting closer, but it was because it's a totally different
He was letting his
person
guard
the
down.
whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
And
like
so,
now
like-
we can, sorry to completely cut you off, but I didn't even think about this
You're fine.
then. His previous owners, Draff and Zane, who we've just spent an hour saying that they're just volatile and awful. And then you've got Vin, who's probably showed him for the first time compassion. You know, hold on, but he's actually a master because he's placed within different areas. So everyone's just shit, really. And then Vin's not, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're actually really decent. I kind of agree with what Kate's saying, which is like, it didn't really go anywhere, even though it's supposed to be like, yeah, Vin's so great that he was supposed to betray her, but he didn't even want to in the end. It's like, we're anticlimax. Bit of an anticlimax. Carrie says, I personally loved the reveal. I didn't see it coming at all, and his big decision to subvert the contract was really impactful. Michelle says, I wasn't disappointed that it was him, but the real reveal was just so underwhelming in the text because of all the other stuff going on. Because it was in the second half of the book and the Brandon Lanch, Sanderson Lanch was happening. Sander Lanch. Third time's a charm, Maude. Yeah, it kind of got lost in all of that, so the impact was lessened. Kate says, when you look back through the conversations when Orsio first took the dog body, he gave clues that he wasn't who he said he was. He didn't know things that he should have. Oh, do you have any examples of those? Can you remember it?
Don't remember the exact part, and I don't have the book in front of me, but she was talking about something that happened like before, like in the first book. And he was kind of like, oh, huh? She's like, you remember the time with that? And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just like, it was written in a way that it's like, oh, he's like kind of like
adjusting to
thinking
a new body.
maybe differently. Yeah, because he's not in a human body. And this is like, because when she gave him that body, he's like, what is this? Like, you're giving me a dog body. So it kind of like sowed those crumbs that it would change him because it wasn't the right body. When you look at it after, it's like, oh, it's because he wasn't the right person. He should have known that stuff.
The timing
it was
of it
easy
was
for
great.
him to. It was easy for him to hide it.
Yeah, because he's pretending to be a person. We're getting rated right now. Michelle Boyd. We got the Boyd band in doing some choreography. PD Sissy and Damask, thank you so much for the follows there. I'm only about 71 away from 10,000, so that's kind of fabo. So any follow definitely does help to hit the milestone for that. Michelle, you're a big reader. You love nerdy stuff. Have you read Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson? Because that's what we're chatting about at the moment. We're talking about books, but if you are, Toaster Poster just gifted 5 tier 1 subs to the community. Look at that warm welcome. Buggles, Baxrock, Sprinkles, you got one. Captain Breakfast, hello bud. And Oddball using Leet. You've all just been gifted a sub thanks to Toaster Poster. So if you got one, throw Toaster Poster a big old thank you there. Sprinkles, you can do it. You can do it verbally. Sprinkle.
Thank you very much, Toaster Poster.
Yay!
You are quite the upstanding individual.
Yay! That's way more impacting when you're able to say it. STS just jumped on that too and is also gifting 5 gift subs to the community. Oh, thank you so much, STS. Stargirl, Fusion, Ice Phoenix, Mark Views, damn it, Randy, and Travens. You all got a gift sub thanks to STS. If you've got one, chuck a thank you over to STS's way. We're close to a hype train. Oh, I like that emote, Michelle, little black kitty there. We were talking, what were some of the generic book questions that we were talking about in this session? We're talking about Game of Thrones being shit, if we'll ever see Winds of Winter. What was one of the generic questions we've all been weighing in on? What speed do you listen to your audiobooks? How do you read books? Do you read or do you listen? Or do you Kindle? Oh, you did like Mistborn quite a lot. Hey, Michelle's a Mistborn fan. You love to see it. Skull Cleaver. Oh, Skull Cleaver just got us over with 300 bits. Now we got a hype train. Have a fantastic rest of the night. And thank you to all the boy bands for jumping on in and talking books. Ask her what power she would have had from the book. Oh, yeah. That's another one we had. If you've read Mistborn and you know about the metal burning power system, what would be the best metal to burn? Majority of us think pewter because it gives you strength and it means you can run forever. It means you can heal yourself. It means you can land big punches. Another 300 bits. Hey, thank you. We're at level 3, 52% already. You would burn atium. Yeah, but it's so expensive and it's so fast, Vaidin. I think it would look like you were on, I'm guessing, this is a guess. Maybe it could look like you're on a psychedelic drug. I would assume. You know, like all those movie times, like when someone's under an influence, they get like a kaleidoscope sort of effect. That's kind of what atium does. So atium, if you don't know, if you ingest atium and you burn it, you can see like a second ahead of the future and you can see any possible thing that a person would do. So if they have like, I could throw an axe, I could fire an arrow, I could jump, you actually see that like being forecasted, so you can see their actions and their movements. And it's kind of like in the Matrix how they whoosh, 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 like you can dodge and miss every hit. So Duralum, is that just a concentrated metal of all of them, so you can just get like an insane boost of whatever metal you burn? Talk me through Duralum, Kate. Yeah, it's basically like it super enhances whatever you're burning at the moment. For those that have just jumped in from Michelle's stream, has anyone read the Mistborn series? Show yourself. Does anyone like reading books? What is the best book you've ever read? And the last book that you read? Let us know. Introduce yourself in the chat. I'd love to say hi and learn about your book nerd book consumptions. Aw, Vaidin just gifted a sub to Michelle. That's so sweet. Thank you, Vaidin. I think she's ducked out because it sounded like she had to run. But that's really cool that she got that. Posture check. Okay. Avery says, I hope Spook gains some self-confidence because he's one of the most talented Tin Eyes and he thinks he's useless. Aw, I know. Poor Spook. Spook had good development this book too. Skull, thanks very much for the 400 bits. You just bumped us up to 81. I appreciate that. Watashi Wannabe, hello. I need to start reading books again. I used to be the most avid reader, but it's been about 15 plus years since I read a book for recreation. Too long. Oh, reading. I'm trying to do, well, that's why I have a book club, to try and get more people to read again and have like a community to do it. And so there's accountability. And so we're all in this together. It actually really does help you read more books and have sort of like more drive to want to finish it as well. Lisa says, I'm also in the middle of reading Starflight by Melissa Landers. Vaidin gifted one to True Scorn. That's really cute too. True Scorn, Chris, now you've got some emotes that you can use. Firakumi, what aspect would you bottle? Luck would be nice. So it's luck, weight, strength, mind, health. Watashi Wannabe, you just gifted 5 subs to the community. You're paying forward the one that you got from STS, but then you upped some more. That's so great. Thank you so much. Blue Reader Gal, hello. You got a gifted sub. Zogon, Mandanana Panda, Agent Leo, and holy moly guacamole, You all got gifted a sub thanks to Watashi Wannabe. So if you did manage to get one, give him a thank you. Watashi Wannabe, I just assumed your gender. Give them a follow, a thank you. That'd be lovely. But now we're at 62% on the hype train, which is great. I really wish I could have like a train. Boop, boop. That would be really cool. One day. I don't know how it would work. I'll probably make it Adam's problem though. Anne of Green Bagel. Slowly been trying to make my way through reading Dune, but favorite book I've read so far would be All the Light We Cannot See. Oh, I'd love to hear more about that book. Sell us on it. Dune, I got you, girl. This is my copy of Dune. It is very chunky. Oh, that's where I read it up to, but I listened to it. It's tough. That one needed a book club. If you do want, yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? It's one of the newer limited edition copies of it. Great colors. For Nerdist Book Club, we actually did 6 different part stages of reading Dune. So if you need like a very dedicated like 6-part breakdown of the books in a discussion form, Nerdist has got you sorted for that one. If you just need a little bit more of an oomph there. Avery says, I would either want wakefulness or health. I liked the idea of health, the way that he was just like recharging on the spot in the book. For those that don't know, this is I've got a different copy. Mine looks different, but we're doing Well of Ascension's book 2 from Brandon Sanderson in the Mistborn trilogy. This is the first era. He kept writing them after this. Yeah, we're 2 books in now. You're very welcome, Anne. Him. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, Watashi Wannabe. I can usually tell, but I just never want to assume and get it wrong. Kate says, I would want soothing to counteract anxiety. I remember when I was like, I would want to soothe, and everyone's like, you just want to manipulate people. I'm like, no, there are so many good ways that you can use it. If someone's nervous about public speaking, you can put their mind at ease. Like, I would, if you actually really, really thought about the ways in which you could use soothing as allomancy, I actually think there's more productive and good ways that you can use it over negative ways. I mean, obviously coercion and getting people to do something for you. Pow! Hey, Pow Pow. Thanks for the follow. Pow! Paolo. It's just a fun one to say. Hi! Avery says, I'd rather be a soother than a rioter. Rioter, I think that's easier to be used for bad, not good. It was lovely meeting you too. How you been? How you feeling? I don't know how I'm awake during this stream. Tinai would make very detailed maps. I know, Michelle, you said tin for me. I would love to enhance my senses, especially when backpacking and other outdoor stuff. You could hear all the birds. You could smell the dew, the little droplets on the leaves. That would actually be really, really lovely. I think you could get really exceptional quality of life from being a Tinai. We're talking about the Mistborn trilogies. There is a metal-based power here. When you consume and ingest metals, you can burn them, and it unlocks a different power each time. Hi, Adam. I love snorting dew. Oh, thank you for making your presence known, Adam. How you been? Vaidin says part of the bad association was because the Lord Ruler's specialty in metals was in soothing, and he would use it. He wouldn't use it to control people. He would use it to make people depressed. I would do it for the absolute opposite. Toaster Poster said, it'd be nice to burn a medal for memory. I always forget Tuesdays for some reason. They're pretty forgettable. Hey, Lisa, do you want to announce the book we're reading next?
Sure. Next month we are reading. Oh, where'd it go?
Get out of there, Adam.
Oh,
Hype train.
Gods of Jade and Shadow.
Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Morena Garcias. We've read one of hers before. Do I have it behind me? I wish I did. I think I listened to it. Oh, that was when Nerdist stopped giving me the books because we weren't going into the studio. I listened to the book. That'll be a lot of fun. Be good to kind of have a woman of color instead of a white dude in fantasy, just to kind of spice it up. It is a little bit different. The characters and the stories and the focus, it's subtle, but it's enough to kind of just feel a little bit different each time. Avery says, I love Gods of Jade and Shadow so much. Avery, tell us a little bit about this book. Let's sell it for people to join in.
All right. So it's basically the story of this girl, Cassiopeia, who she's basically trapped in her small town with her abusive family, and she wants to get out. And she accidentally resurrects the Mayan god of death, who's like, we are linked now. We have to go on this journey to get my items of power to restore my strength and reclaim my throne. So then she basically goes on a cross-country journey through 1920s Mexico. Ooh. And you get to see all the stuff about 1920s Mexican culture, and you get to see rural areas, you get to see cities. It's really cool, and it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of written like a fairy tale in a way, but it's, it's like a couple hundred pages, but yeah, it's lovely.
Oh, that actually sounds really, really cool. All right. It's very, very different from the books that we've been reading, so that'll be a lot of fun. Get your Audible credits for that one. Giving you a heads up, we've got quite a long time until we tackle that one. Our next Geek Bomb book chat will be the 2nd of March. Maybe one of those days. Yeah, 2nd of March for that one. And then the following week after that, we'll be wrapping it up. I'm also going to be doing the Night Circus with Nerdist. So if you do want another book to read for the next 2 weeks, jump onto the Night Circus. Jim Dale, who does Harry Potter books, narrations, he's reading that one. It's a bit of a bigger book, but Night Circus so far, really, really good, by Erin Morgenstern. Chris said, can we talk about the end of Well of Ascension? Do you take up the power and save the person you love, or do you let the power go? So the whole big twist of this particular book is that a real bad thing in the Well of Ascension has been tweaking the story and the tales and the lore to try and get people to believe that if you are the hero of ages, then you have to give up the power to save the people. And the reason why the Lord Ruler was an oppressive tyrant who had been ruling for so long was because they took the power for themselves. So it was trying to teach everyone that power equal bad and very selfish and will turn you evil and mad and awful. And so Vin goes in, this Miss dude slices Elend open. She's like, what the hell? But Elend wants to save the people. She knows the right thing to do. She gets a taste of this god-like power. She becomes literally a god and then relinquishes that power because she knows it's what's the right thing to do to save the people. Except it's not. It turns out that the big bad down in the well has been puppeteering and puppet mastering that because the hero of time, what is this, Zelda? The hero of ages needs the power to stop the big bad in the well, which is what the Lord Ruler's final words were in the first book. You don't know what you've done. And she's instead released whatever this big bad is. So she fucked up, but that's because she was led to believe that what she was doing was right. So now she's unleashed. I mean, Wikipedia spoiled it for me, so I know. But then the Mist was like, no, that's not what I wanted you to do. I was trying to help you. You weren't supposed to take it. But because I sliced your boy, here, let's give him some metal. And now Elend is a Mistborn. That's a real Mary Sue. I'm kidding. Elend's a Mistborn. What do we think of the ending here? Who wants to unmute and go for it? Who wants to talk about the ending? Colleen, we haven't heard from you yet. Colleen, what did you think about the ending?
Sorry.
You guys.
I think that I probably would have fallen into the same trap because you want so much to do what's right and, be a noble person that, she thought that she was sacrificing Ellen to save the world. And, it'd be hard not to want to do that. And then to find out that basically you've been betrayed and misled all that time. That's, more gaslighting.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in this book. It looks like from the sounds of the chat, a lot of people would have fallen for it and they would have given up the power for what they thought was the greater good. Chris saying, yeah, I'm lawful stupid. I would have fallen for the trap. That's hard because I think I would have done the same thing, even though having like the power to shift the world and like you have the power of creation, you could save the one that you love. I would have thought big picture as well. I mean, again, I've never been in that position. I don't have my love dying in my arms. But I think I would have done what Vin did, which is a really good writing, because when you're putting yourself in that position and you're like, yeah, we're going to save the world. Ooh, we got the wool pulled over our eyes. What would everyone else have done? If you haven't answered what you would have done in that situation, would you save your love and take the power, or would you have given it up thinking you'd save the world? I don't mind if someone wants to unmute and talk through it.
Okay, here we go. Now, I don't know if you've ever played the game Life is Strange.
No.
It's fine if you haven't, and keep in mind this is a spoiler. The game's already old. But here's the thing. Life is Strange, in the end of the game, you have two characters, and it's either you save the town or you save your best friend.
Right.
And I would always choose save my best friend, because I was just like, everyone in this town is terrible. Why would I care about these people? So, like, I don't know if it's just like the connectivity of it all or whatever, but I just feel like when someone gives you the proper respect and you feel that respect and that love, it's just very hard to let go of that. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying, like, if not everyone has that capacity for sharing their love and their understanding. And so I feel that if a reset were to occur, it would be better, but that's just my opinion.
No, I get that. Why save the person that you love if the world's just going to be awful in it, living together? That makes sense. I get it. A lot of the chat's saying it's almost irrelevant what we would do in that moment. The point is, the man that she wanted to save would have been mad, angry, disappointed in her for choosing him in the first place over everyone else. That was the thing that we mentioned earlier in the stream, where Ellen really was fighting for democracy. He was fighting for the people, and Vin learnt that about him, and she wanted to honor that and choose what Ellen would have wanted her to choose. You would have taken the... Kate, I would have taken the power. I can't be trusted with power. I know enough about myself to know that I would become a villain. Lady Ruler over here. Kate, you've gone from Miss Necromancer to Lady Ruler. I like Lady Ruler. Aw, that's lovely. Colleen, it was lovely to have you. Have an amazing night. Play the Board says, I'd like to think that I would save the world, but it's so much easier to think about sacrificing yourself than it is someone you love. True. That's why it's like a lot of the villains are like, we know that if we torture you, you won't give in, but we're going to torture the one you love. Ha 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 ha. Lady Necromancer. I like that too. Yes, have a good rest of the week. Are we excited about book 3? Give me a quick yay or nay. Did this lead up to a very good... Yeah, Chris, yes! Can we please read it already? Let's just read it. Avery says, I am. Kate says, I'm excited. Funky Monk says, hey. Thierry, nay. Vaidin is excited. Jimmy's, Michelle's like, yay, I want to know where this all goes. I'm a bit meh, I'll be real. There are so many open threads, says Lisa. I mean, I'm a bit bummed. We lost Doxson, we lost Clubs, we lost Tyndall, even though Tyndall was new to this book, so it's kind of to be expected. But I just feel like they did Marsh. I just feel like they didn't really know what to do with Doxson in this book, so they just offed him. That's a bit of a bummer. That's a bit of a bummer. I like Doxson, but he didn't really have much to do here. Alrighty, well, we will be finishing the series. I do think we're going to have this upcoming book and then maybe another buffer before we get back and finish this one once and for all. But Night Circus, I'll see everyone for Nerdist Book Club on the last Wednesday of this month, which I believe is the 23rd. In 2 weeks' time, the 23rd. Marsh was very much the surprise motherfucker meme. Yeah, that was weird. He popped up, and I remember being like, yeah, what happened to Marsh? He just kind of left. He just kind of bailed. Toaster Poster says, I'm going to listen to the first one before I get into the third book. You haven't read the first book? You just read the second book, Toaster Poster? What? Ember and Talia says, for a group that's been fighting against the powers that be, now both Elend and Vin are having to figure out their relationship to / use of power, political power, granted power, inherent power. Oh, I like that. I like that. As much as I was sad that they all died, I really liked that it was a more accurate representation of war than most fantasy authors. I know when one of them will get a scratch and the other one might get a bleeding head wound, and that's kind of it. Oh, Chris, off subject, is Brian W. Foster a hobbit? He's 5'10" and I'm 5'11". We're like nearly eye to eye, but I'm just a little bit taller. I was the tallest person on set, and there were I was one of 4 women, and there were 3 guys. I was the tallest. Yay, no one was 6 feet. Marsh went to the Cenobite version of Singles Inferno. Vaidin, I got the feeling that he was controlled by the prisoner of the Well of Ascension. That makes sense. Oh, this is a big bad in there. Does everyone want to know what the big bad is called? I can tell you. Who do we want to raid into? Do we want a bit of Legend of Zelda? Do we want... Oh, I know who we're going to raid into. Guess I'm just chatting. He's just chatting. I think he's raided before. We're going to be raiding Anthony Carboni. My boy Carboni. Tell him Maude sent ya. He's always a fun chat. I love my boy Anthony. Oh, yeah. I was going to do some spoilers, right? Let me scroll down because I had to read this thing. And it said what the name of it was. Where is it? That's right. There it is. The name of the big bad is the